now I'd love to introduce Shane Phillips. So Shane is a respected member of the Redfern Aboriginal community. And as the CEO of Tribal Warrior and its various programs, Shane has helped reduce crime in the area by up to 80%. Born and raised in Redfern, Shane is an outstanding community leader, respected by the Indigenous and non-Indigenous people alike for his integrity, hard work, and determination in getting things done. Over to you, Shane.
Good morning. Good morning. I guess it's humbling, and to champs, to Mark, it's been a very humbling and let me say well received and appreciated gesture, and him and the team that were involved in suggesting it. I remember when he first mentioned it in 2017 or 16, and we thought, oh wow, that's a big, we're really keen to do that. It'd be amazing. We're the only Indigenous maritime company in the country, and we've been around for over 20 years, and it'll be interesting to see if the government would make a decision that would move an asset across to our organisation, who we slowly built ourselves up. And without Champ's help, this opportunity would have never come about. But obviously, in any other case, this comes with a lot of work, and we're really driven to prove that we look through a lens of strength and that we work hard at what we do, and we've earned every cent and everything we've got as an organisation. So I want to run you through something really simple. We've got a little bit of a slideshow which actually PowerPoint, which I'm really bad at. George is here helping with, but I'm just going to go through it, and I'll skip through it, but I'll get you to some of the important parts. So you put your hand up at any stage if you think I'm jumping ahead of things, because I am not good at this sort of thing. I can give you an idea. Tribal Warrior, we've been around for 20 years, so just over 20 years, and it started as an Indigenous maritime company on the vessel Tribal Warrior. Lots of us were from the block in Redfern, and as a community we were imploding, and lots of things were going wrong. So between Redfern and the Lapa community, the old fellas from the block, old fellow named Daniel Ariel, Uncle Bruce Stewart, Uncle Kevin Smith, these guys were instrumental, Lionel Monta, they were all part of this, in bringing together an idea that they could train some people in the maritime industry, and they were training people who were probably the ones who weren't actually going to go for those sorts of projects because they didn't think they were worth it. I joined Tribal Warrior in '99, and during that year I joined because my brother was a heroin addict, and we were in the block, we were struggling, so we thought, let's get in here and see if this could help things. And during that time, we started our training, our Master 5 training, our Marine Engine Drivers tickets, the MED3 ticket. And I saw something that I never saw before that. They taught us about this whole new openness of how to deal with things. Because I'll be honest with you, as a community person, as a young bloke leading up to that, I was resentful, angry, I was feeding that sort of trauma that I'd witnessed and been part of to my own family. And I saw with the young ones, we were doing exactly that as well. Tribal Warrior, and the way that the vision went, it was to learn to be open, to see your own value, to see your own worth, but also to have drive and purpose. And drive and purpose, the vehicle was a maritime vessel. And that maritime vessel took us to a new place. So I guess, short version, at one stage, we went on that old vessel there, and they got us to circumnavigate the country. And that vessel is 119 years old this year. That used to be a broom pearl lugger, and during the time of its lifetime, it's worked around the country. But we circumnavigated as part of the vision of these old men. The best thing that ever happened to us on there is they said to us, and we were all the same, like-minded. They said to us, listen, you guys, you've just saved up dry food, tin food, fuel money, sat phone money. We've saved it all up ourselves. No government's helped us, and we've done all this and all the fuel, and we're prepared to. It's a goodwill journey. We're going to go into lots of places. And they said, you're going to get people come up to you and say to you, I guess government paid for this, or it's our taxpayers' money. And they said, what are you going to say when they do that? And we said all the wrong things. We said, we're going to tell them to, you know what? And they said, you're not. You're going to tell them this is a goodwill journey. And you're going around and you're sharing this new lens of strength and the strength of our people, your connection to thousands of years of strength. And you're going to, that's all you're going to do. You're going to invite them on, give them a coffee or tea, but you're going to be open about it. And we thought, what the hell is that going to do for people? But what it did do, it taught us a whole new approach in the way we deal with things. And we learned that that actually works, and it helps people see value for each other and enlighten people and the way we work as human beings towards each other. Anyway, jumping ahead, that vessel, we started doing maritime training in it, but we ended up trying to do a tourism product on that. And in actually at the end of 1999, we were doing a navigation exercise underneath the harbour bridge. Very simple, just taking waypoints, using sextants, and we saw a Captain Cook, see how the flag's up. We saw a Captain Cook cruise boat comes past us, and it's full of kids, and they're all going, quick, look at the Aborigines. And we all busted out laughing, and we looked at them, and it was a light bulb moment, because all the kids were waving to these kids, and in the light bulb moment we said, why aren't we learning more about these stories of this place and sharing these stories with all this community? And that was where our tourism product began. During that time, we had that vessel which took 20 people. None of us had any experience at tourism, but what we knew is we wanted to tell stories about our people. We wanted to share things that we all had just learnt. That happened, and actually that was just prior to the 2001 2001 circumnavigation. Anyway, as this grew, we had another vessel which was called the Murray. The Murray Narrow came a little bit later. I'll go back to it. But we grew, and we ended up getting the vessel which took 200 people, which is what the one we have now, which is the Murray Narrow, which means big canoe. And during that time, we had learned lots of things about business. We learned how we could present business, but at the same time, this vehicle could still take lots of people, train lots of people, and push people through or coming through the same backgrounds. And it's what it actually did. We made it through in enough time that we'd been able to understand through some of the mistakes we'd made in learning about business, how to systemize, take it from a group of people who learn about this new skill set, transfer it from us as individuals to having a systems-driven process. And it taught us a lot about business. And while that was happening, there was no government money doing that. We did it ourselves, and it was a tough way to do it. And you know what? We wouldn't change any of that. So in 2009, after all the riots and things were still tough on the block, we were going along and doing lots of things on the boats. And by that time, we trained over 4,000 people in the maritime industry from lots of parts of the country. And some of them end up working around the world, Indigenous people. And then we said, we're going to train lots more than just Indigenous people. We want to train anyone who wants to be part of it, but we're an Indigenous maritime training company. So our network started to grow, and people started to see us as valued assets in the industry of maritime, instead of just a bunch of Indigenous people who need help. And that lens of strength that we were sharing, other people started to see that relationship was making the difference, that this was all about that relationship. We were seeing each other's value and purpose. And that made a massive difference to us, but it also gave back to people from other communities who were learning about us, like this journey we're on now with you guys. So in 2009, we were having problems in the community with, obviously the young men were imploding, and our community was imploding. Our own families were all involved in it. And on the block at that time, we were a no-go zone. And we were enjoying the daytime out on the boat. And at night time, it was mayhem. And we were leaving our families back with that every day. So while that's going on, a new police commander turns up. He says, listen, we've got 15 young men who are committing robberies in this community. We can arrest our way out, or we can do something together. And we palmed him off because we had a really bad relationship with the police. And what we did at that time is we kept dodging it and passing it to someone else, the responsibility, because we didn't want to create a relationship with the police. And it's pretty bad. It's embarrassing to tell you this right now. But eventually we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Tribal Warrior teaches routine, discipline, but it's all about maritime. And what we do, some of us come from boxing backgrounds, and what we'll do is we'll get these young men, if you identify them to us, we'll get them to agree to turn up for routine sessions with us in the mornings. We'll get you and your police to turn up, and we'll just train together. We'll teach them routine and discipline, but we'll put them out on the harbour with us, give them a maritime qualification. And what we'll do is we'll teach them about their people so they see this new lens of strength. And I'm going to say the lens of strength a few times during my presentation, because I want you eventually to look through the same lens I'm looking through. It's all about strength. So as it went, these young men, we turned up one morning in June in 2009, and it was pouring down. It was 6 a.m. and we said, it's got to be 6 a.m. in the morning where we're going to teach them the proper routine and proper sleep patterns. No one understood it because they thought they had all this sort of welfare style programs running around the place. And we said, we're going to teach them about what we expect from them, and we're going to teach them how we're going to see their real value. And we turned up, and they saw a police officer going in who they really disliked, and they said all the wrong words. And we said, boys, you know what? We're going to go and we're going to train with these guys. And when no one's going to talk about their crime, they're not going to talk about it. We're all going to train. We're going to tell them that you're learning routine, that you're going to get some qualifications, and you might go back to school, or you might give to your community, or you might get a job. There's these options that are on the table. So we turned up and we trained, and at the end of that session, we saw each other for the first time. And it sounds weird, but we did 9 3-minute rounds, and everyone had the pads or the gloves on, cross training. And then during that time, we were completely fatigued. So it sounds simple, but we did. We saw each other for the first time. This went on for weeks. During this time, our community were calling us informers and dogs, and the police were getting called nigger lovers and do-gooders and boom lovers. And we said and it made us form an alliance with each other. So during this time, what had happened is these young men understood the routine and the discipline. They've got their own sense of purpose, a sense of worth, a sense of belonging. And as they learn about our people, they see that lens shift from their deficits to their strengths. And the police saw that as well. They also saw that about the police. Quick version through that, and I'm trying to go as quick as I can, is robberies dropped 80%, 82%. These young men got this purpose, this sense of worth, and everyone started to talk about them. And while that was going on, the police had realised, and their naysayers had realised there was less paperwork, less victims, and there was a better relationship. And our people did it as well. It changed the dynamic. We realised that relationship we have to work at, and it's lots of work and responsibility. And in this one, we took all the responsibility back to us, ourselves, to our people. And we said, this is ours. If we make the mistake, this is upon us, and we will take that responsibility for it, and we will prove the purpose of it. Anyway, moving forward, off the floor of that training session, there used to be 16 young men, 15 young men, and 8 police. What you see on that picture there right now is consistent with the numbers that we run. It's not just about young men anymore. It's about families. It's about young kids investing in each other before we have to fix them. And then anyone who's already at that stage where they've struggled, let's try and help work on them. And they fix themselves, because it's about empowerment. So the Clean Slate Without Prejudice program, it had begun, and that's what had happened. Some of the people that were involved, and people like Mark Spinks, he was an amazing leader, and he's the chairman of Tribal Warrior and of Babana Men's Group. Mark Champley there's a great asset and a great friend of ours, and there's lots of people on here, Michael Batteridge. We've all got this alliance, and we're working together. Ivan K. We're all, community who are working together. I'm going to skip through some of these. This is a Never Going Back program as well. It's about parents or people who are adults who are already been in the system and have to reintroduce themselves back out. They come out with purpose. And when they come out with purpose, it helps them with their reintegration back to community, have purpose. They get instead of coming out with a drug problem or a new liquid shackles, handcuffs like bupe or methadone or anything. They have to come out clean with purpose and value and help give back to a community. We see amazing success with that jail program and their parents and brothers, or at the moment, and uncles of families. They're vetted before they come out, and it's had an amazing success. Okay, the family mentor strategy. This is another one of our programs. It's about families who have lost their kids because they've been used drugs. It's a really honest program, and it's actually changing the game in the out-of-home care space. I'm telling you all this because this is the why. This is the why our maritime business and anything that we do commercially has to work. It's because we want to make sure that we're investing in these children, and that's the purpose. None of us are going to get rich out of this. This is about us giving back to this community. We capture every bit of data, we measure this, and we show any, return on investment. I'm going to tell you this way before I get to the actual asset, the Lady Northcott, because I don't want to have to explain that to anyone later on, because you can see why, and that gets through to that point. I don't want to drag this out and bore the living crap out of you people. So we do maritime training still, and our maritime training is along the coastline as well, and not just in our own community of Sydney Harbour. If you look at Sydney Harbour, prior to us being out there as skippers and being on Sydney Harbour, it was less than 3% of Indigenous maritime people in Sydney Harbour. There's more than 15% right now. Tribal Warriors played that role in that, and around the coastline where communities aren't connected to the maritime industry, where if you think about it, one time our people for thousands of years regulated the maritime industry. We're now just being reintroduced to it again. Culture's part of it. It underpins everything. The kids learn about it. We share it. And we don't just share with our own people. It's about sharing with everyone, so we all are part of this identity together. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. Here we go, to the asset itself. Lady Northcott, you've heard from Mark and what it used to be. You know that this vessel was a cargo vessel. Its cargo were people, and it looked after people, and it was a safety asset to get people from one point to another around Sydney. And it became an iconic vessel with lots of families connected to it, lots of families' memories connected to it. And when the opportunity came, and Mark first mentioned it, I was like a big kid, and I pushed for it hard, and then it went away, and we kept talking about it over the years. And then Champs come back again and said, listen, you've seen it's been decommissioned, let's do it again. So we got together and did it again. And then we pulled a bit of a team together, which was Ivan Kay and Ivan Swartz and our Redfern boy, yeah, Scotty Hoskins, I forgot to mention too. Champs, Mark, Gus Taylor. Gus came along. As we started to pull together and have this conversation, I wanted them to know that we weren't just a case for them, that we could do it. And we actually have the understanding of how to run an asset like this, that we've been out there in the industry in tourism for 20 years, and that we want them to be able to be part of the journey, to give us the opportunity to empower ourselves to take this to the next level. And then by doing that, we're showing that this relationship has this genuine purpose, and it's the best way that we can do things. One of the things we want to do is prove that point, but we want to measure the outcomes of this, not just on the vessel itself and the families that get employed out of it and the way that works and the way it's maintained, but also that why behind it. These kids, any income that's made from that, obviously we're going to use to sustain the vessel and its operations, but we're going to use it to also feed the program and its mentors, and also the way that they work with lots of these kids who are coming out of trauma and their backgrounds. So we want to do something exciting with it. We want to make sure it's an iconic vessel of Sydney Harbour again. Now, to get it from where it is now, Carrington, which is at Tallis Shipyard, we want to get transport right now to help us with it. We're actually going to With it came a small grant, which is 300 grand, because if you look at the way that this is going to work, it's going to cost us just over $1 million to bring it and put it back in, bring it into what we want to do. But we don't want to bring it back as just some feel-good exercise. What we want a cultural connection to economy. We want to make sure that it has value there. So we want to bring this back with a smart business plan. So bringing it back, I reckon it'll probably cost us 300 grand just to get it slipped and to get it ready to be operational, but it does not include the way we're going to refit this vessel to make it an iconic vessel that can be a reserve ferry, the sightseeing tour vessel, which I'm going to talk to you about, and also a cultural charter vessel of Sydney Harbour. We have big dreams. We used to aim at mediocre. We aim for the stars now, and we focus on the process of getting everything right to get to that point. Our vision is to turn it into an iconic looking vessel so it stands out. If you look at the backdrop of the Opera House and the Sydney Harbour, I would like this vessel to be seen as one of those iconic places. And I guess this is not the actual final version of it, but to give you an understanding of how it potentially could look. Looking at that vessel, initially we were looking at the top deck. We would run it as a morning ferry, which we would bring, and our connection with the Friends of Lady Northcote. There's people who have retired and have moved off ferries and the government ferry service. We'd like to keep them connected to it, but we'd like to continue training other people to come through and learn to work in ferries and work off this vessel to maybe go through to work with NRMA and Transdev and the other ferry service, or in the maritime industry in other places. But we want to run a really good operation as a ferry service. So we would hope that that's the case, and some of the negotiations that we're having now are looking like that's the potential. Changing a look at the vessel and what it does as well, we know that right now during COVID that it's stopped sightseeing tours with ferries and NRMA. It's made it complicated for those guys. We're saying there is a gap in the market, and the international market's dropped out. The local market has the potential to give us the opportunity to take that role with this vessel, this asset, to become the sightseeing vessel of Sydney Harbour. And if we repaint this vessel to have an iconic look, and that's not the final look, we've actually got a really funky look that's going to bring it out and blow people's minds when they see it. It is going to be top deck, will be general sightseeing, bottom deck because of the wheelchair access and mobility access. We're going to make that the cultural. If you come in and you just want to do general sightseeing, you go into the upper deck where you'll be hosted by people, and you'll also have and guided. And the lower deck will have. We're going to go all out. We're going to do augmented reality as well as people there guiding in the lower deck. You're going to have all that opportunity there, so people can see what Sydney Harbour looked like, the stories of those places prior to the colony establishment, and it's going to show people some of the strengths that we want everyone to look at about Sydney Harbour and the way we all are connected here. So it's going to be a transport vessel, a tourism vessel, and I guess if we were to lock ourselves in on education is the local market for us. We know that the local market consists of people like the businesses, the corporates, the educational facilities, and just the local partners from families around the community who deserve the opportunity to be out there. But we want to make sure it's a vessel that shows that it has more than one purpose, and that purpose is to give back to a community. There's not lots more I can tell you about it, but I know right now that is the nuts and bolts of what we're doing. We do have more in store for it, but it is going to help a community rebuild itself. We can do this. We can maintain and look after this asset ourselves. But we want to have a relationship with everyone, and we think everyone's got to be part of a relationship. The empowerment process that you guys have been part of, and is for us is really, we're really grateful, and we will hold this, we'll take this with both hands. But I know that one thing, the impact of the families that we see, and we see kids that are dealing with trauma on a daily basis. I'm seeing the growth in what they do. What this asset's going to do is going to be helping them not just think through that lens, that they look through a lens of strength like we're seeing right now. And that continues to happen. So I want to share something else with you, because we don't want to be perceived by where we were. Like everyone on this call, we have all had issues and traumas or whatever it was that had sometime impacted us, but it never defined us. And we want that to be said about the children of our community and everyone that's been part of this journey. So I'm going to share something. It might be as corny as you know what, but I think it's really important that we do it, because it shows that we're growing and we're healing, and it's not just about that people are thriving. So I want to share this with you, and I want you to, I thank you for the opportunity to be able to give this. And I do apologize if I went on too long, but this is the why, I guess.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round. You can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Ooh, mountains, we gon' walk it out. And ooh, mountains. And I rise like the day, I rise up, unafraid, I rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. And I rise up, I like the waves, I rise up, in spite of the ache, I rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. The silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to our journey and our relationship along the way. Thank you all.